south of Chicago, in the state of Indiana. Two correctional facilities hold some of America's most dangerous female offenders. Houses of concrete and routine, where more than 1,800 lives are lived within razor wire perimeters. Many of the women here are serving long sentences for brutal crimes. Some will spend the rest of their lives behind these fences. This is Indiana Women's Prison. Today I am escorted by Sergeant McPherson to meet one of the most notorious inmates in the state, a convicted double murderer who has become a symbol for everything that troubles the public imagination about female offenders. We're heading now to administrative segregation, the sergeant tells me. This unit is where our disciplinary offenders are kept. It is a punishment unit. We put them here to give them time to think about what they've done and to clear up negative behavior. In the segregation unit, inmates spend more than 20 hours a day locked in their cells. Contact with the rest of the prison population is minimal. Every movement is controlled. Every hour measured. Sarah Pender has been held in this unit for nearly 5 years. Her long confinement was not for the double murder that brought her here, but for an escape in 2008. That made headlines across the country. Why do you think they've given you such a long sentence in segregation? I asked. Because I embarrassed them, she said. How did you embarrass them? I escaped from what was supposed to be a maximum security prison. Her explanation was blunt, practical almost. She told me an officer had aided her, driven her out. The officer came in to refill the transport van, and she walked out and got inside. As she described it, the arrangement had been transactional, contraband, money, an easier way to get funds without lying to family. When the officer realized she was planning an escape, he saw an opportunity. There was another element of humiliation when the affair between them became public. I also had a sexual relationship with the officer, she said, matter of fact. That was very embarrassing to the department. Authorities were bruised by the escape. The officer who helped her, Scott Spittler, was later imprisoned for 7 years. Sarah was captured after months on the run, added to the U.S. Marshal's Most Wanted list. For a time she was labeled America's Most Wanted Woman. The state made its point. She was returned, rehoused in segregation, and kept apart. Sergeant McPherson had watched Sarah from the day she arrived. She's one of the best manipulators I've seen, he told me. She preyed on his emotions. She made him feel she could save him, replace what he didn't have. He fell for it. She used him to get what she wanted. Out in the general population, life is governed by strict routine, recreation for a few hours, 15-minute sittings for meals. Within those tight borders, small communities form. Some inmates have been here for years. Others are newly arrived, raw and frightened. I met Addie in Unit 13. She has been in this prison since 2006, 7 years of a 16-year sentence. I got strong armed robbery charges, she told me. She described a life of youthful rage and poor choices. I was really smart at school, but I had a horrible anger problem, she said. I just let it get the best of me. Addie has 2 daughters. They're my biggest motivation, she said. I don't want them to follow the same circle my mom did. Her voice carried the steady, weary hope of someone determined to change. Many women here say the same. Prison is a place to stop the cycle. Rockville Correctional Facility is the largest women's prison in the state. New offenders arrive here by the hundreds, on average 200 arrivals every month. For many, this is their first port of call. The moment the outside world closes behind them and a life within begins. Intake moves like a machine. New inmates, easily recognized by their orange uniforms, are given the rules and the small necessities that will get them through the first weeks. We watched as one woman, returning for the second time, spoke about fear and uncertainty in the same breath. She'd been an addict since her teens. She had 4 children. 3 months clean is a big step for me, she told me. But it's hard to go further when you've lost your transport, your stability. I have to find a way out of this. For those who have been here decades, the world outside changes almost beyond recognition. I met Martha, who has been incarcerated nearly 20 years. She described seeing a small gadget on a hospital visit and learning it was an iPod. She'd never used a cell phone. I can't wait to explore everything, she said, almost childlike. 20 years of institutional routine had narrowed her world, but she had patience now, a hunger to learn. Prison has given me time to discover things I didn't have before, she said. Yet the thought of freedom brought both relief and fear. I told my children that you might still see a little prison in me. I might act a little different. If I wander off for an hour, don't worry, I'm exploring. These women cling to small rituals and to one another. In dormitory life, the daytime world of the general population, friendships can mean survival. Friend is not a word you throw around here, one woman said. You have to be careful. Women can be very vindictive. They can smile at you and then stab you in the back. Close relationships often become romantic on the inside. Several women I spoke with acknowledged deep, emotional bonds they'd formed in prison, some sexual, some lifelong by necessity. I wasn't gay when I came in, one woman admitted quietly, but I am now. Loneliness begins it. One thing leads to another. Emotions are real here. At mealtimes, the small comforts of normal life take on weight. We sat with a group who bowed their heads in grace before the trays were carried in. The food is bland, but sharing is a ritual that binds them. If someone's having a bad day, we comfort them. We're supposed to be a no-touch facility, but we hug anyway, one inmate said. The human need for reassurance does not yield to rules. I returned to see Sarah Pender again. Her notoriety, a female Charles Manson, some called her, shadowed everything she said and did. Once a college student, she told me how her life pivoted in the early 2000s. She admitted to helping dispose of bodies. Whether she masterminded the killings remained her claim. I helped get rid of the bodies, she said. I strenuously deny masterminding the killings. Her trial produced a verdict that would define her. The jury found her guilty of double murder and sentenced her to long terms, a combined 110 years. When I heard the sentence, she told me, I felt disbelief. She knows the prosecution's theory that she manipulated her boyfriend, Richard Hull, urged him to murder the people who had been living with them. The prosecutor said I wanted them out of my house, she recalled. That's where the reputation of manipulation came from. Carrying the label of manipulator is a special kind of burden. Every time I meet someone new and they know my reputation, it's another hurdle, she said. It's a consequence of my actions, but it is still a label that follows me. Sarah spoke quietly about the victims. She thinks of them and their families. The woman had 3 children, she told me. Despite the fact that they were both felons, drug dealers, they were still people with families who loved them. They can't ever get those people back. There was no attempt here to evade that pain. Later that week, I spoke with another inmate whose crime shook me in a different way. A mother who had taken the life of her 3-month-old son. She had been called a baby killer in headline and in contemptuous whispers. I was that, she said, but she also insisted she was more than that label. I am a lot more than that as well, she told me. In a different interview room, an older woman recounted a life on the run. I heard something coming in the back door, and I thought, oh no, it's the cops, she said. She had kept herself hidden for 35 years. These are the stories that live parallel lives within the prison. The manipulator, the fugitive, the addict, the mother, the planner. Each one is a life condensed into a cell. Some women struggle to reconcile the world they left with the world they will return to. For many, the first night of freedom is a fantasy, a bed of their own, a little piece of heaven. For others, freedom is a terrifying unknown, a life without the rhythms that have dictated every hour for years. In the months I spent inside, the most common refrain was a desire to change, to be better for children and family, to break cycles. You miss out on a lot, one woman said. You miss holidays, birthdays. You miss your kids growing up. Another told me my mom was in prison. That's what kicked everything off for me. The weight of intergenerational incarceration sits heavy in these conversations. Yet not every story ends in remorse. Many told me how prison hardened them, altered attachments, rearranged loyalties. Some embraced new identities, others remade themselves through education or quiet acts of penitence. Addie, who had been stealing since her teens, admitted she had started to control her anger in recent years. I've been getting better, she told me. I want to walk out of here and be something for my children. The prison officers attempt, wherever possible, to foster rehabilitation. They speak of programs, of hope, of the chance to change. A principal worry for many staff is recidivism, the cycling back into crime, because outside structures are missing. But they also see small victories, women who discover patience, who learn skills, who reconnect with family. At the heart of every corridor, in every quiet hour, is a question of accountability and humanity. How do we hold people accountable for terrible acts while also recognizing the complex histories and traumas that brought them here? How do we balance punishment with the possibility of repair? There are no easy answers, but as I walk the yard, watch the careful choreographies of mealtimes and count times, listen to women tell their stories, I was struck by one thing: the depth of the human need to be seen. Whether they are called baby killers, manipulative masterminds, or rehabilitation success stories, these women asked, in voice and in silence, to be acknowledged as more than a headline. Sarah Pender's life moves like a cautionary tale and a human story at once. An educated young woman, shaped by emotional entanglements and bad decisions, whose life was rerouted into criminality and tragedy. Addie's story is another, a young woman whose poor choices were rooted in a cycle she is desperate to break. Martha's dream of an iPod is a small, unmistakable testament to how much of life is missed behind these walls. On my last morning in the prison, I stood by the fence and watched the routine roll on. Trays stacked, gates open, a bus of new inmates arriving. The lessons of these days were contradictory and plain. Cruelty and tenderness can coexist. Labels can stick unfairly. Resilience emerges in the smallest acts. And the line between victim and offender is often braided with sorrow. You might still see a little prison in me when I get out, Martha had said. If I act a little different, don't worry. I'm exploring. Outside these walls, we like to think of prisons as places that contain danger, that separate the threat from the rest of society. Inside, containment is only part of the story. What we lock away is not only bodies, but histories of poverty, addiction, trauma, failed systems, and fractured relationships. Those stories don't end at the gate. They move on. They echo. They ask for something harder than punishment. The possibility of understanding, and with it, a chance at true change. As the van pulled away and the gates thudded shut behind me, I carried with me these conversations. These faces, they are a reminder that behind every crime, there is a life to be reckoned with, and that the hardest adjustments for those who come here and for the society that sends them are not only the loss of freedom, but the slow work of imagining a different future.